Hi, everyone. Welcome to SoulQuest. I am excited to have Tina Wefer here today. She calls herself, I love this, the Transit Muse, Midlife Transit Muse.
Midlife Transit Muse, yeah.
I love that. I love that. I wish I had known back when when I was 40, like what transits I was going through, but I wasn't aware of that part of astrology yet. I'm almost 50, so now I'm like, "Oh, I can look back and see all the cool things." And so we'll talk about those things today because Tina specializes in the transits that we go through in our lifetime that are important to pay attention to. And when we do pay attention to them and work through them, go with the flow with them, our life is so much easier, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It
So,
helps.
um sorry. My throat is getting tickly. Well, welcome, Tina. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
And where are you located?
I'm located in Southwest Colorado now. I live in the middle of nowhere, um,
Nice.
in the Four Corners region. So where Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico meet. Only place that happens in the United States where four states
Wow.
meet.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. How long have you lived there?
I've lived here for 4 years, originally from the Midwest. I grew up on a farm, like an hour outside of St. Louis, moved to Chicago for 20 some years. After college, moved to Denver for 6 years, and then just wanted to live somewhere closer to nature, closer to the mountains, like
Mhm.
how I grew up. So ironically, I ended up back up in a small town.
And so can you tell us your like rising sign, sun sign? Do you know your human design?
I do, yeah. So,
Okay.
I'm a Leo sun. I use Placidus house system, so I'm an
Okay.
intercepted Leo. So when I learned that all these years, I was like, I don't feel like the typical Leo. I'm not your typical
Uh-huh.
Leo. And that makes sense because I have Cancer at the beginning of the eighth house where I have my sun and Virgo on
Oh.
the other side. So that's that's typical of someone who doesn't feel like their sign. So
Oh, okay.
interesting little tidbit about astrology.
Okay.
And then I'm a Virgo moon, I have a Virgo stellium, and I'm a
Mm.
Sagittarius rising or ascendant. And then in human design, I'm a 6-2 emotional generator and I'm off the roof. So,
I'm a
um,
6 too.
oh yeah?
Yeah,
What
I
is your
seriously, I feel like I attract 6 2s into my life. This is amazing.
I think I think 6-2s tend to come together, like, there's something about that
Yeah.
experiential wisdom that just, they kind of find one another.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
fascinating because anytime somebody comes in my life, it like 9 times out of 10 they're a 6 too, or they at least have a 6. So, interesting. Cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that with us. So, before we dive into astrology, just tell us a little bit. So, you told us a little bit about where you grew up. Where did you have any when you were younger, did you have any, like, inclinations towards astrology? When did that start to pop up for you in your life?
So, my family was very practical, rather religious. So any part of me that like communed with nature, connected with nature, um, wasn't really accepted in my family. So I shut that down for most of my life. I was Little Miss Corporate Girl, got my MBA, and then I read my sun sign, my horoscope.
Mhm.
I checked compatibility with partners throughout the years, and I started studying astrology right around the time my Chiron returned. But I didn't really learn Chiron until later. And my Chiron return story is what convinced me to really study astrology and to use it for the transits. So I'm adopted.
Oh,
I always knew I was
okay.
adopted, but when I was, about to turn 49, I took a DNA test, 23andMe, and I found my biological family, and I found out that my name and birth date had been changed. And, um, I started having an identity crisis. Like, who am I? I thought I was this person all these years. I just started questioning everything I knew about myself. And then I turned
Oh, wow.
50 during COVID in 2020, and I had worked in marketing in corporate and startups, and I was finding the work no longer fulfilling. Like, what am I doing? I am marketing buggy software. Like, why am I doing this? And I just didn't really enjoy the work anymore. So I started having a midlife crisis. Um, and then when I learned about my Chiron is in Aries in the fourth house, and it is all about acceptance, rejection, belonging, identity. And that is exactly what I was going through. And I learned it like after I'd been through my Chiron return. So it would have been nice to know that before, which is why I do what I do now to help people get ahead of it and plan for it. But it helped me put everything in perspective and understand what happened because it was just like textbook Chiron return in Aries in the fourth house. Like it could not have been any more like
Wow.
uh, like how we would normally describe it.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. So many questions about that. Okay, so you found out your birth date was different. Was it really
It was
different?
it was not really different. It was they changed it by one day. But obviously then the birth time that
Oh,
I've been using in my astrology, I assumed was incorrect. I had to do a chart rectification.
oh,
Um, and they did it at the time. So I was adopted in 1970. And at the time, they were trying to prevent people from finding one another. So when I was searching for my biological mother
oh,
in registries or databases, I put out my birth date as August 4th, born in St. Louis, Missouri. This is my birth time. And when she was looking for me, she was looking for Susan Marie McCullough, born on August 5th, 1970, and at a different time. So, from what I understand
oh,
from people in the adoption industry, they did that to try to prevent people from finding one another.
oh, wow. But then DNA came out. DNA,
I know.
23andMe and Ancestry. Yeah.
There are no more secrets ever.
I know. I love that. Yeah. I was just talking about that yesterday with somebody. I've gotten connected with a whole side of my family I didn't know, like on my mom's grandfather's side of the family through Ancestry, that we never knew about his father's side, and so now we're connected with that side because of it. So,
Yeah,
I love it.
it can be really cool.
Cool. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it would have been so helpful if you knew you were going through your Chiron return. I can understand, like, because I'm starting to go through it now, and I can just feel it building up. So, do you want to start by talking about the Chiron return in, what are we, Taurus, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yours is in Taurus in
Cool.
the second house. So Chiron is an asteroid and comet, and every 49 to 51 years, it returns to the place where it was when you were born. And so it was discovered in 1977, and Chiron in Greek mythology was about the wise healer who couldn't heal himself. And so it points to an old wound or insecurity, patterns, fears that generally we experienced in childhood. And for most of our lives, we kind of just push it down. And around the ages of 49 to 51, it comes up for healing. And I don't know if I'd say healing because it's still always there, but you become aware of it and you become aware of how to work with it if you're open to that. Um, so it's all about learning how to work with it rather than letting it run your life in the background, like driving these patterns. Like in my case, I was pushing away people because I believed that they would reject me at some point. So I always had issues with relationships. So it's about finding the wisdom in that wound so you know how to work with it rather than letting it run your life. And for some people, it becomes it becomes your wisdom, but for some people, it becomes their purpose, in some way or another. It may become what they do for work, or it may become um, a factor in their work and how they work with other people. But it is, I think, one of the most influential transits to look at. They're all important for sure. But like I think Saturn return, first Saturn return for sure, Uranus opposition, Saturn opposition, Chiron return, and your second Saturn return are the big ones that I always suggest that people understand.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the ones I'm aware of, but of course I wasn't aware at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I look back at my Saturn return, yeah, I left a relationship and I was like, I know what I want, and I went out and got it. I worked hard at what I wanted. I didn't I worked hard for the Saturn. I didn't like, drop down and like, woe is me. I'm not gonna do like I did what I had to do. But I can see how people can kind of get into the victim mentality and change, like give up on things when they're going through these transits if they're not aware what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So,
like you don't know what's going on. If you don't know astrology, you don't know what's going on, why you're feeling like this. Like your first Saturn return is all about responsibility and maturity. And so a lot of people experience major life changes around like getting married, getting divorced, having children, maybe graduating grad school, buying a house, but some major life change. Um, that when I talk about that, most people can reflect back on their Saturn return and be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember exactly what happened during my Saturn return."
mhm,
And then it starts to connect for people even when they don't believe in astrology or when they're not familiar with astrology.
yeah, yeah. And I know the midlife crisis, it used to be, that was around 40, but now it's like 50. Well, it's the 40 and the 50 depends on how long you're going to live, I guess, right? But
Right.
the 40 uh time is like the Uranus opposition, right?
Mhm. 40 to
So,
42 typically. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember afterwards learning about that and thinking, "Oh my gosh, that the neck like I was 41 when I got a divorce." So, I could feel the stirring in me at 40, the change that I was going through. So, it's amazing. It's amazing
Yeah.
how it all aligns. I mean, the stars really are um working with us, flowing with us, right?
Right.
So what do you see for those people that are going through Chiron return and Taurus? Is this an 8 years, right?
8 years, yeah.
Okay. So my question is, am I going to have to like work hard these whole 8 years, or is there going to be a certain point that it's really going to come to my face? Like, okay, this is
Yeah.
really where
So it's a few different things. So, um first of all, it depends on exactly where your Chiron is. So your Chiron is at 1 degree in Taurus. So you're going to experience it sooner than people who are at 10, 15, 29 degrees. And
okay.
then it also, because Chiron goes retrograde, so it hits direct at one point, and then it goes retrograde, hits again, direct it like directly hitting, but when it's going retrograde. And then as it moves forward again, then it hits direct again. So it actually hits 3 dates. So yours are around May 9th to 10th in 2027. So you have a little bit of time. November 11th to 12th, 2027, and then March 8th to 9th, 2028. So you have some
Oh.
time. So Chiron just moved into Taurus on Friday and it's there until September. September, it goes retrograde into Aries again, and then it moves forward into Taurus next April. So even though we're
Mm.
currently in Chiron in Taurus, and you're going to feel that energy, it's going to go back into Aries um, September through April. And so that's an opportunity to resolve anything that you didn't. fully resolve or integrate or address with Chiron and Aries already. So it gives you a second
Okay.
chance.
Okay. So what would you suggest for people during the so if we're going back to Chiron and Aries, what are some kind of things that we might want to work on during that time?
Chiron and Aries is all about who am I and what do I want? So Chiron and Aries is identity. And so it was all about like getting really clear on who you are, who you want to be, and what you want to have in your life. And then Chiron and Taurus is about like uh, do you deserve that? Like it brings up themes around self-worth and money and values, what's important to you, um, how do you want to spend your time, things like that. So,
Okay.
yeah, identity, getting clear on what is that you really want, and then when it moves back into Taurus, then creating that life and dealing with any money, self-worth, um,
Mhm.
comfort, stability, body, senses. Do you feel worthy of having it or not? Can you receive? How does your body react to someone wanting to support you, love you, help you? Like a lot of women tend to resist that. It's very difficult for them to receive. We've been trained to be givers from a very young age. We saw it with our
Mhm.
mothers and grandmothers in a lot of cases. And so
Okay.
that's kind of our MO that we are now
Mhm.
operating with.
Yeah, definitely. Um, the more I learn about the Chiron return, which the first time I heard about Chiron return was through human design, knowing that I'm a 6, I heard I move into the 3rd phase after Chiron return, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, what's Chiron return?" That
Yeah.
seems so far away, but now I'm here. Um,
Time sneaks up on
so
you, right?
I wish I would have studied up a little bit more before I got here just to kind of be prepared, but it's really great because it gives me structured work, like structured
Ugh.
things to work on. I've been doing like EFT tapping every night
Mm.
about I am worthy because I realize this is a pattern that I've had my whole life with work situations, and every situation where I worked for somebody else, there was some issue where um they were trying to demote me or just something to make me feel unworthy and not good enough, right? And all the jobs
Yeah.
that I've had. And then when I start working for myself, I feel good. But then when I have a class and nobody signs up, or there's hardly anybody in my classes or something, then I start to feel like, oh, am I even worth, should I even be teaching this? Is this even what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I even worthy of having students? I could feel that coming, and so I'm like recognizing it now and telling myself, wait, no, you are worthy. This is your purpose. And I just need to get to that point where I believe and I know that I am worthy.
Right. And that's the
So,
next 8 years.
yeah.
Hopefully. Or the next several years specifically for you.
Yeah,
27,
yeah,
28. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, what have you observed in people that you've worked with when you've talked to them about their Chiron return and what they're going like? Have you observed any, I don't know, really cool things happening with them or
But
realizations?
the biggest thing is this, realization and putting it all together, like, "Oh, that's why this happened." That's, like, one woman had been having challenges at her job, and she, uh, got laid off, but it was, a somewhat contentious situation. And so with her Chiron return, it made perfect sense. Like it gave her a framework to think of all this in and stop taking it so personally. I think like
Well,
that's like we think it's us. We think it's like what is wrong with me, or like in her case, what is wrong with me that this job went so far south. Um and then understanding her Chiron return helped her understand, like, it wasn't me, like, this was teaching me something that I'd been
Mhm.
resisting learning my entire life, and then it finally brought it to a head where she had no choice but to experience it, but knowing her Chiron return placement, then she was able to put it in perspective and not take it personally. Like, it wasn't about her, like, this was a lifelong wound that she'd had, and so that, um recognition that I see in people, and like a lot of women tell me they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood, sometimes for the first time in their lives. Like, that's the biggest thing. Um, it does depend on if you're approaching and you can get ahead of it. Like, for the women who want a reading to know where their Chiron return is and what it's going to bring up, like, so I break it down like, what is a transit? So in this case, the transit is Chiron return. What house is it in? And that house, there are 12 houses in astrology. I know you know that, but for anyone listening who isn't super familiar with astrology, there are 12 houses and they all indicate a different area of life. And so if your Chiron is in the second house, it's going to bring up um, things, regardless of what sign it's in. It's going to bring up things around money and worthiness and income. If it's in the fourth house, it is around identity and family, more so a family. If it's in your 10th house, it's around career. So knowing where your Chiron return is helps you understand, like, okay, this is the area of life that's really going to be pressing on or putting pressure on. And then also, what sign is it in? So now it's in Taurus, yours is in Taurus. So, like, that is kind of the emotional tone or flavor and what it's calling for. So, if you know that in advance, like, you can start working with it rather than, I think, like, you've been feeling the pressure of it. You've, you've been feeling like it's coming, and the pressure of your Chiron return in Taurus coming, but, if you don't know, like, what house it's in, if you don't really know what Chiron is or the sign it's in, it's really hard to know what to do with that. You just feel the pressure without knowing where it's coming from, knowing what to do about it, and so I find that, sometimes people are like, "I just wanna blow up my life." Like, I hate my job, I hate my
Yeah.
career, I hate my husband, the kids have left home, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, I'm so confused, like, my body is betraying me with perimenopause, menopause, my emotions are betraying me, and they're just like, "I just wanna blow it all up and fly to Bali." But if you know where the transit's coming, then you can get ahead of it and be more thoughtful about what it is that you want to do, what you want to create, what changes you want to make. If you're in it, the same still applies. I think even once you're out of the transit, like Chiron return, once I was finished, I was still confused. I had I had difficulty putting everything in perspective and understanding, like, what is going on? Like,
Mhm.
why did every part of my life blow up? Um, and so even if you weren't aware where it was, what it was calling for, even having that perspective after the fact gives you the ability to integrate it and make sense of what happened and move forward with the wisdom from it, rather than staying stuck and confused.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. What okay, what about these let's go back to, so the people that might be coming up to their, Uranus opposition, what are some things that they're gonna be coming face to face with?
Yeah, so Uranus opposition is typically around 40 to 42, but I have read a number of charts for women lately who are 43 and they are not yet in their Uranus opposition. So those are general guidelines. Um, but everyone's timing is different. So Uranus opposition is all about rebellion, authenticity, freedom, like it's a
Mhm.
desire to live more authentically. You mentioned leaving your relationship, and so like that is a typical Uranus opposition that like
Mhm.
this is not me, this is not what I want, and I need to make a change.
Yeah, wow. That freedom part really felt that I remember feeling like, "I just wanna be free from this," like, I just wanna be free. So, I remember that feeling well. And then okay, so we have our Saturn, return every 29, 30 years, right?
Right.
What about these other Saturn if I look at the pattern app, because that's usually what I know that's Placidus, right? Placidus?
Placidus.
The
Yeah.
Placidus, sorry. The pattern app is usually what I go to, or there's another one for Full House that I use, but it's not as friendly. But if I look at my transits, I've been going through Saturn transits for a couple years, just one after the other. The last one last year kicked my ass. I can't even remember what it was transiting with anymore, but now I'm going through a Saturn conjoined opposing my Mars. So, have
That's
you
tough.
found with anybody that these other smaller ones that people go through that aren't as known are just as growth like?
Yes. I every transit, so like the midlife transits like Uranus opposition, Saturn opposition, Chiron return. Those are kind of what I call the midlife transits. And then there are also these, I'm going to say daily transits, but they're not like Saturn doesn't move that quickly where it's not changing daily,
Yeah.
but these transits of where something is in your natal chart or your birth chart, those will also they can cause anything in our life. Like um I had an I had an accident, and I use air quotes because nothing happened. I spun around on the highway in the snow
Oh,
twice
wow.
with a pickup truck behind me and 2 trucks coming at me. I hit nothing. I, like,
Yeah.
spun around twice, went into the ditch, almost made it back out onto the make it back out onto the road or up onto the road, and I was an inch from a mile marker post. I hit nothing. And when
Oh,
I looked
wow.
at the transits later, it's like, "Oh, yeah, like, divine intervention." It was protecting me. Um,
Wow.
I was like, it it was a freaking miracle that, like, I came out of that, and my car came out of that unscathed, and, like, then looking at the
Wow.
transits afterwards, it's like, "Yep, that makes sense." So, all of those transits impact our daily lives. So yes, help understanding, both those midlife transits and then where the planets are impacting your natal chart are hugely important. And so there are different relationships between um, planets as well. Like if they're conjunct, they're together. If they're square versus opposition, those all indicate some aspect to the relationship. So that gets very detailed into astrology and how to
Mhm.
understand that. But it's just amazing how accurate it is when you know what to look at and how to interpret it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I find out I'm going I'll have a hard time, and then I'll look like, "Oh, I'm going through this transit. Oh my god." I start reading about it everywhere. I just start reading about it. I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. This is why. This is what's happening to me." And then what's amazing is that I think it was Saturn opposing Venus maybe last year. Um, I ended up ending a relationship. It was I just felt like such a heaviness going on, and I read that, and I'm like, "Okay, this is what's happening." These Saturn transits are really heavy and hard. And then when it ended, it was weird. It was like I had a couple of weeks of relief of like it felt so much lighter, and then I started another one. And then all of a sudden it felt heavier again. That's the Saturn opposing Mars one. So It's really
That's a tough one.
fascinating. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, it's fascinating to get that validation, and it really does help. It really does help to know that this is something you're supposed to go through for your growth. You were made to go through this for a reason, and these are the things you can do to excel at this lesson. Or you don't do these things, and then, you're not gonna be at on your highest timeline or work towards your authentic self, right? So,
Yeah. I think a big part of it is like when you have your map, you know how to navigate your life. Like it gives you insight into what's going on. You can get ahead of it. You understand it. You can navigate it versus just pushing through blindly if you're
mhm,
not aware of astrology or the transits.
yeah, yeah, just to think about people that I mean, and many of us were like that, like you were saying, you looked at your sun, you read your sun sign. So we grew up reading horoscopes, and that a lot of times I'd be like, this doesn't make sense. We're just
Yeah.
reading our sun sign when there's so much other stuff going on
Yeah.
um,
I think
with your astrology.
yeah, and I think that's sometimes why people dismiss it because they don't resonate with their sun sign. But publishing horoscopes was basically newspaper filler in the 30s when they're
Mhm.
like, we have extra space to fill. What should we do with it? And they're like, we're going to publish sun signs, horoscopes. And so some people associate that as astrology, but there's so much more to astrology.
Yeah.
Like that's one tiny, tiny piece. So I think that's one thing I would leave people with is like there's so much more to astrology. Your
Mhm.
rising sign says a lot about you. Your moon sign says a lot about you. The relationships between planets and um, that's like it all. It's a whole story. It's not just like one little page like your horoscope is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's fascinating. A lot to learn in it. That's why it's good to get somebody to do a reading
Yeah,
because then you don't have to do all the research. Somebody does it for you and tells you.
yeah. It's a lot to learn. Like it
It is.
is no small feat to really master
It is not.
astrology, I would say,
No,
yeah.
no. I started taking a class, and this is what I do a lot in my I know it shows up in my human design. I don't know where it is in my astrology, but I start I'm a manifestor human design. So I start a lot of things. I start researching, I get really into it, and then as soon as it starts to get too detailed, I drop it. I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know. Like,
Yeah,
just say so I
y
know, but I do know the houses and how all that works, and where my midhaven is and all the things that I need to know. It's fascinating. It's so validating to know, like, what's your rising sign? Oh, that makes sense. Because growing up, I didn't feel like I was a Virgo because I always thought of Virgos as perfectionists. And I was like, I am a half-asser. I'm really not a perfectionist. Like, I don't really care about folding my clothes or anything. But I realized later, I do feel more like a Virgo the older I get. Just like the healing part, and I am a perfectionist when it comes to my work. I think that's where I have a little and I do have a little OCD with certain things in my life. So, but the Aquarius rising is where I started to think, "Oh yeah, that's me." Like, "Oh yeah, that is me."
yeah,
So, it's really I feel like a form of therapy, a different form of therapy if people would try, like working with an astrologist sometimes over therapy, it might really help them, or therapy and astrology together would be very good.
right,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna dismiss this therapy, but, because of that validating part, right? And
mhm.
a guide.
It's kind of an explanation too, and I find human design the same way. It's an explanation for why you are the way you are and a permission slip to be that way versus growing up thinking like, "Oh, I'm so different from everyone else. I didn't fit in. I don't fit in. Like, why do I do
Mhm.
this or that?" And then when you learn your astrology and human design, it's like permission to be who you truly are. Like this is how you were designed to be. Like just let it happen, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I like that idea of a permission. It's a permission slip. Well, here you go.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be who you're meant to be, and
Yeah.
this is how you were built. And that's how the world works when we all come in together being our unique self. Amazing and so interesting.
Yeah. I do have some Substack posts that I published recently. If anyone wants to learn more about Chiron and Aries, what it was calling for, Chiron and Taurus, the dates, I think it's Tina Wefer, Tina Wefer, Midlife Muse. So I
Mhm.
will be publishing more. So that's a great place if you want to learn more about Chiron, what it looks like in Aries and Taurus, and what it's calling of you. Um, I am going to be getting pretty detailed. I've gotten detailed in some of the previous posts, but even more detailed on specific questions to work with it. I have a series coming up, so I would um, highly recommend anyone who's interested in learning more to check out my Substack. If I could make a
Yeah.
shameless plug, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I started following you on Substack and I'll put a link in the show notes for that and your website. Do you want to just say your website out loud?
Yeah, it's identityreinvention.com. Um,
Love it.
I also have a guide if anyone wants to learn more about the transits. Is it a midlife crisis or a cosmic transit? And it's all the transits that happen between 28, I think I go as young as 26, 25, 26 to 80. And it does a deep dive into the key ones. So if someone's curious about like what transit are they in, what is this all about? That's a good place to start too.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great resource. Yeah, because I mean, we have another hopefully I have another 50 years, so there's gonna be a lot more going on.
It's interesting 'cause I feel like every one of these transits is I mean, they happen throughout our life. We've kind of focused on the midlife transits, but there are transits that happen throughout your entire life. And they're all this call for, am I living the life I want? Am I living an authentic life? Or what do I need to change so that I don't end my life with regrets? So I'm not like 80 something sitting in a rocker, like, oh, I wish I would have XYZ, like it's an opportunity to kind of wake you up now and make those changes now rather than waiting until it's too late.
Mhm. I love that. Yes, totally. Great. Well, one last question I like to end with is what is something that you do every day that helps you stay balanced?
Nature.
Mhm.
I we moved to the middle of nowhere and we have 40 acres and I just like to go out and wander the woods. Like
Oh,
I don't even have like there is a trail that I can follow, but half the time I'm like that tree looks really interesting. I'm gonna go check that out. Or that shady spot looks really cool. I'm gonna go sit there. Or like
oh, I
some
love that.
interesting pattern of the light coming through the trees, and I just like wander around and um, yeah,
I love that.
that might be what keeps me sane.
Yeah, I love that. That's same with me. My parents used to have a ranch down here in Texas, and I would do the same thing. I would just wander around and just look at things. Of course, it's not as pretty there as it would be in Colorado because in West Texas, the trees are smaller and it's drier.
Yeah,
But it was still just like to be in the middle of nowhere, to have all that space of nature around you. It's so healing. It just feels so good.
yeah.
So I am so happy for you.
Yeah, it is like the best part of my day, other than my cats, who one of them has been wandering around in the background.
I was like, here
I
goes
saw
my
yours
cat. And then
too.
there's your cat.
Normally
Your
Bella,
cat
the other
is
one's
my cat's mostly black with some white, and yours was mostly white with some black, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
cute.
yeah. He's sneezing
Yeah.
now. He wants out. That's how he, like, tells me that he wants something is by sneezing.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
My cats do that annoying meow. They have just different annoying meows that they're like at 4:30 in the morning this morning. I had to hear one of them meowing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, come on."
So
Anyway, I love them.
he's never meowed. He comes up and sneezes on me when he wants something in the middle of the night.
Really?
Yes. He like, he never meowed. He would, like as a kitten, he'd open his mouth, no sound would come out. And
Oh, wow.
I've had him for 15 years, actually, today. It popped up in my memory on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And, he's never meowed. He chirps when he's playing, but, if he wants my
Huh.
attention, like to leave the room or to get food, he will just sneeze, including on me. It is not my favorite thing.
Wow, that's interesting. So maybe he doesn't have voice cords or maybe like he doesn't. No, that's interesting. I've never heard of a cat not meowing. So there's something that, but he learned to sneeze to communicate. That's
Yeah,
so fascinating.
he's really good at communicating with me, like sneezing on
Wow.
me, but just yeah, he's a very unique cat. He's
Very
yeah,
cool.
cats are awesome.
Aw. Yeah, they are. I love them. I'm definitely more of a I have a dog, but I'm definitely more of a cat person.
Same, for sure, yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
been lovely spending this time with you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us on SoulQuest.
Thank you for having me, I really appreciate it.